I feel like I'm going crazy. The Kentucky 3-day event just happened, and there was a couple of things that happened during this event that I find highly concerning with how the horse world is reacting to them and the lack of enforcement from stewards at the actual event. And I wanted to talk a little bit about them because this conversation needs to happen. I know it's an uncomfortable one, but if we don't have this conversation and really start to reflect and make changes in the horse sports, we're going to lose the social license to operate because there's just so many things that are being normalized and enabled that at face value are not okay or fair to the horses, and people who haven't been indoctrinated into horse culture see it for what it is. So ultimately, we have to start caring as a community and making change from within, or other people are going to probably step in and do that on behalf of horse people. And one thing that I wanted to focus this video on was what happened with a specific rider and horse pair, because it's something that I don't think should be as controversial as it is. And it's so disappointing to see how horse people are reacting to this one specific event, because I think it speaks for how much work there is to do, because something like this should not be controversial because there is one very clear, correct answer. So let's just jump right into it.
Just leaves so long and reaches, and Calvin just sits, climbs back up, and off we go. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Just leaves so long and reaches, and Calvin just sits, climbs back up, and off we go.
So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about here. One, the rider did not even pause to get the horse to jog a few steps to assess soundness before continuing on. There is a reason why soundness exams are conducted at the jog. There is a reason why they do jog ups at these competitions instead of canter ups. And it's because you can assess soundness most accurately at the trot. Canter can mask a lot of lameness issues. The rider could not have known in good faith whether or not the horse felt sound enough to continue without doing those jog steps. But there was no attempts to even do that. You can see the rider flapping his arms as the horse starts to get up to send the horse off again. The next issue is that the horse actually almost crashed again on course. So my biggest issue with this instance is that, one, the rider could have paused for a moment to better assess the horse, even just by jogging. Even if we're going to argue that he shouldn't have had to pull up, he could have jogged the horse a few steps to better assess the soundness. But then two, the horse also almost crashes shortly after this initial instance again, and he still did not pull up or retire the horse at that point. And keep in mind, because he never jogged the horse before, he didn't know if the horse felt really off. I've had people argue with me and claim that this rider knows his horse better and that he knows how the horse would have felt. But actual veterinarians who have gone to school and studied to assess soundness in horses have to look at horses at the jog to make a good assessment. You would not have a vet that would pass your horse as a sound horse solely by looking at it canter off like that. So the rider could not have possibly known. He is also not a lameness professional, and even if he were, he would still need to jog the horse. So I think it's a really empty excuse. But let's look at the second near miss on course to further illustrate the point that I'm making here. So both of these crashes could have resulted in severe injury to both horse and rider. If the horse had rotated and fallen, the rider could have ended up underneath the horse at any given point, and both of them could have been substantially injured, more so than they were. I'm sure this horse is banged up and sore. That's something that I don't really think is up for debate. People are arguing that the horse is fine because the horse was cleared to show jump the next day. And what people don't realize is that at these types of events, it is not uncommon for people to ice their horses for hours at a time leading up to the jog if they're worried about any soreness being present, and then jogging the horse after they've had lots of ice put on the legs, and then they can pass it. So it could be a false positive pass and the horse could still end up sore. The other thing that I want to note is that this horse had one crash and another near miss on course cross country the day prior. The rider was nowhere near being in a top position, and he still chose to go forward to show jumping when this is clearly a very honest horse that tried his heart out. I don't think it's in the best interest of the horse to go forward to show jumping. And with that said, even if the horse was totally fine. He did not know that when he pushed the horse on to continue on the cross-country test. Neither did the stewards or anyone witnessing that. And I think the thing that bothers me the most about this is that all of the people who are currently defending his decision to push the horse on and finish that cross-country test would be singing a very, very different tune if the horse had rotated and crashed later in course, or been pulled up with a severe injury following that instance, or if anything worse had happened. And here's the thing. 5-star eventing is very dangerous. It has been many, many times over the years that we've heard of riders and horses being severely injured on course or even dying. And people stress how dangerous cross country is and the risk of rotational falls and blah, 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 blah. But then we have things like this happen where people have the opportunity to behave in a manner to prevent those types of accidents from happening and make better decisions, and then they don't. And then we still have people who are high profile figures in the horse world defending that decision to not try to mitigate risk. This rider, Calvin Bachman, did not mitigate risk with his decisions. He actually increased risk, and he also almost crashed again on course. If this had ended up worse than it had, people would be singing a completely different tune, which shouldn't have to happen. We shouldn't have to have a horse die or be severely injured for people to recognize when better decisions should be made. We should be doing things with a prevention-based mindset, and we should be erring on the side of caution for the benefit of the horse, but also for the safety of the rider. It shouldn't be a situation where people defend until a big accident happens. Accidents are prevented through proactive thinking. The rider did not think proactively in this instance, and everyone defending him has failed that horse. The stewards watching what happened who did not pull him up failed that horse, because after the second near crash, they should have been pulled up. I don't think there's any reason that this... I think the most important takeaway from this is the fact that the only loss for either jogging the horse and adding time penalties just to assess soundness before continuing on, or retiring from cross country and forfeiting the event, the only losses there are to the rider. It's a human ego thing. It's a human desire thing. It's him having to give up on what his goals are. It only negatively impacts him. It doesn't negatively impact the horse at all. Him pushing the horse on and continuing to press on to do what he did, that negatively impacts the horse, and it could also negatively impact him by way of severe injury if something worse were to happen. The horse does not get any positive benefit from being pushed to work through after a fall like that. It is solely for the person, and that is an incredibly selfish decision to make in a sport that we always love to say horse first, sport second. Love the horse first, the sport second. This right there, that whole videos, both videos that I showed you are a shining example that the horse does not come first. Because if the horse did come first and that was at the forefront of the rider's mind, it would be a no-brainer to check soundness. You wouldn't feel good about pushing the horse on after a fall like that without making sure that they're okay first. It is such a blatant example of the egos of the rider and the pull of competition coming above horse welfare. And what makes me sick is that there's so many people who are defending his decision and who are using the fact that the horse was okay in show jumping to justify it, instead of looking at it and going, should this horse have even been asked to show jump after? Should this horse have even been asked to finish that cross country course after a fall like that? Is that a good example to set because of the risks that it poses? Adrenaline can help mask pain. A horse who is on an adrenaline high from the level of exercise they're performing, especially after a fall like that probably scared them, could easily mask unsoundness. So even if the rider had checked, there's a chance that the horse could have been lame and could have masked that soundness because of adrenaline. Horses are flight animals. They push through a lot of different types of pain and will do incredible athletic feats despite being in pain. So that's also another factor to consider. The horse could have been injured and it could have just been working through adrenaline. But the rider wouldn't have known because he didn't take the measures to check. So I just don't understand how we can actually look in the mirror, how anyone can look in the mirror and honestly say that the horse comes first and then watch stuff like this and defend it. Because I think that every time we witness something like this, it's just a shining example that for a lot of riders at the top, the sport always comes first. Because if there was actually concern for the well-being of the horse, it shouldn't have even been a second thought. It should have been the immediate reaction to check the welfare of the horse and to save that competition for another day. Because missing out on the Kentucky 3-day event for that year, while that is a colossal loss to someone who has worked that hard and dedicated their career to that, it is a lot less of a loss than permanently injuring your horse or yourself. And this is a multifaceted issue because it's not just about the horse, it's about the safety of the riders and the well-being of everyone connected with the horse and rider who loves them, because this is unnecessary risk-taking. And it is just so incredibly selfish on so many levels that it is driving me up the wall watching the lengths that people go to defend this. It makes absolutely no sense. It is not in the best interest of the horse. How can we in good faith try to claim that the sport values horse welfare while defending this type of conduct in the same breath? They cannot coexist in a sport where horse welfare is at the forefront, because this could have gone very differently. And it has gone very differently in other settings. And when horses end up dying on course or have fatal injuries after the fact, or have career-ending injuries, or the riders have significant injuries or they die, people all just go about how much of a tragedy it is and how it's a tragic accident. But instances like this show that not all of these are tragic accidents in the sense that they could not be avoided. We directly contribute to a lot of accidents by normalizing this type of behavior and shrugging it off when it happens. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone that is defending this rider right now and trying to justify his decision making is complicit in future interactions where horses are not okay or riders are not okay. It becomes empty when they have these little crocodile tears when something worse happens, when they contribute to the very type of mindset that makes these bad accidents happen in the first place, because there is no proactive nature in trying to prevent them in any case. And it is so selfish. There's no benefit to the horse to push on like this. The last thing I wanted to show you about this horse is the condition of his top line, because there's a lot of atrophy. You can see shoulder pockets behind the wither, and there's a dip right in front of the wither. This is a sign of muscular atrophy. This horse has a very poor top line. This horse was not the only one with a very poor top line that was competing at this level. And that is very concerning, because this is a sign of bodily dysfunction. I've had a lot of people in my comment section tell me that I don't understand what a fit horse looks like, and that these are highly fit, lean athletes, and that they're not fat horses. But what that has shown me is that there's a huge portion of the horse world that cannot tell the difference between a lean, muscular, fit horse with healthy muscling and a horse who has muscular atrophy. There's a lot of different factors that can cause a top line like this. Some of them include poor saddle fit, but it also can be involved in poor training practices and being ridden behind the vertical, being ridden not through the back, etc. But poor saddle fit is a huge contributing factor, and it usually works in tandem with other factors. I would not even ride a horse that has this poor of a top line. In the past, when I was less educated and I didn't know better, I did ride horses that looked like this. But you want to know what I didn't do? I never asked them to perform at the 5-star level. And even then, what I did still wasn't okay. A closer look at just how poorly muscled the withers are. A properly muscled horse who has the muscular capacity to fairly be asked to compete at the level that this horse was asked to compete at should not look like this. Full stop. We'll literally need to do a separate video to talk about all of the other horses who had similar atrophy and top line issues that competed at this level at this very event, because there were so many of them. But the point that I want to make is that this horse has bodily tells in his muscular function that would lead me to believe that he is less equipped to compete at that level and more likely to have accidents like that happen, because his muscle tone is not going to help him. He has muscular atrophy. But that aside, even ignoring the body condition of this horse, we should be looking at the performance of the horse and how the horse was clearly struggling on that course, and the rider completely ignored the horse and put both himself and his horse in imminent danger. The fact that nothing happened is honestly sheer luck, and it very well could have gone a different way. And everyone defending his decision-making is defending either outcome, one where they survive and they're fine and they finish the competition, or one where something much, much worse happens. Because ultimately, when people were witnessing that happen on the day and defending it before show jumping, they did not know what the state of the horse was. They could only base it off of the fact that the horse crashed once and then almost crashed again, and they still defended it. We need to do better by horses. The fact that horses can perform at the athletic level that they are being asked to in 5-star eventing while looking like this is a miracle, and they're performing well despite their condition, not because of it. And the fact that they do what people ask them and continue to put themselves and their rider in danger simply because it's what they're trained to do is a trait of horses that we do not appreciate. In fact, we exploit it and we endanger horses because of their willingness to do things, even when they probably know that they shouldn't. If we want horse sports to continue existing, we need to do better protecting the horses, because I think that this is a very embarrassing circumstance that has been internationally televised for everyone to see, and it reflects poorly on all horse people. And the comments section where people are defending this crap also reflects poorly on all of us. Because the fact of the matter is this: continuing to finish that cross-country course did not positively benefit the horse at all. In fact, it had a negative impact on the horse, even if just by way of the horse being sore or frightened following that crash and having to continue on. There is no world in which the decision to continue was in the horse's best interest or had the horse in mind at all. It was for the rider, and we should not be condoning that type of treatment in an ethical sport. There will always be other competitions, so long as we don't lose the social license to operate. What there won't always be is a healthy and sound horse underneath of you, or a rider who is physically capable of competing at that level if they put at risk their bodily function and injure themselves, or worse, die. Not condoning this type of riding is protecting both horse and rider, even if people don't like to hear it because they don't want to have to make hard decisions and scratch from competition. Frankly, it's an embarrassment to all horse sports that stuff like this happens and continues to happen and also continues to be defended. This horse was failed by his rider, the stewards, and everyone present in organizing that competition. He was also failed by everyone in the comment section that is normalizing this type of treatment. Thank you for listening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.